Welcome in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. 4 days until the election. 4 days until the red tsunami sweeps up all of the Joe Biden excess and absurdity, and sanity reigns in America again. Buck, I want to set my DVR to ensure that I have MSNBC and CNN saved. We need to make sure at the Clay and Buck election night party that we are having in Nashville that we at least have the ability to play some of the outtakes of the rending of garments, the tears. I want tears streaming down some of the MSNBC and CNN commentator faces.
You're going to get them.
I want them to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic because you have to remember, everybody, they convinced themselves that as long as it wasn't Donald Trump in office, everything was going to be awesome. And that was really sad and really dumb because it's not true, because Joe Biden is a buffoon and the Democrats are left-wing maniacs, Clay.
Hey, everybody, we're excited for election night, as many of you are as well. We're going to be having an incredible party in Nashville, and we want you to be able to hang out with us as a part of our VIP family.
So all you got to do is sign up, become a Clay and Buck VIP, and you can stream and join us. Some of your favorite people are going to be there, too. It's going to be an election night bonanza. We'll see you then.
The status quo is in effect, and I mean that in a good way. The congressional races continue to surge in a good direction for Republicans. In the Senate, Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Nevada, in Arizona, and now in New Hampshire, there are 5 races that are effectively too close to call that will decide the Senate. And right now, Republicans lead in the gambling markets and the polls in 4 of those. In one of those, New Hampshire, General Don Baldock, there's no early voting. And so everybody is waiting until that last moment, which is why you get sometimes extraordinary surges one direction or another as undecideds all make up their minds. And I feel like there's a good chance that General Baldock is going to end up winning in New Hampshire as well, Buck. So that is where we are. Lee Zeldin is surging in New York. You got Tudor Dixon on fire in Michigan. Christine Drazen, where people all vote by mail in Oregon. A lot of you have been voting out there for some time. She is a substantial favorite now if you look at the gambling markets to win a Republican governorship for Oregon for the first time in 40 years. Tiffany Smiley, Joe O'Dea, everybody out there is looking pretty good, Buck, and we're just going to have to buckle up and see what happens on election night. But I'm curious if you feel like this too. Basically, we are locked and loaded because once you get into the weekend, a lot of you out there, kids, grandkids, obligations, responsibilities, you're not going to be as tuned in. And then we come back on Monday, we're there, right? I mean, the election is basically here. I don't see any major event that is suddenly going to change what appears to be as good of an electoral environment as we have seen for Republicans in over a decade.
Well, there could be a big surge here of people, Clay, who listen to the House Majority Whip, James Clyburn.
I saw this.
Who is saying that the U.S. is on track to repeat Nazi Germany because of how this election is playing out and the far-right extremism that is seizing the country. These people, I really just want to be clear about this. The Democrats who are saying these things are emotionally unwell. There's something wrong with them because the things they're saying on television, whether it is James Clyburn here or Beschloss, the historian that we played for you yesterday, who more or less said, vote Democrat or they're going to lock you away in a gulag and take your children away. And I think he even said, like, murder everybody or something, right? I mean, it really, the Beschloss said that it's going to go full Stalinist purge in this country unless you vote Democrat. That was essentially his messaging. these are not, we're talking about James Clyburn. He's the House Majority Whip. You're talking about Beschloss. He's some historian that they put on TV. Okay, not as big a deal, but these are people who are ostensibly have some degree of perceived authority or real authority in the case of an elected representative. And the stuff they're saying is completely insane. This is really not that complicated as an election. This is an election about the economy. Prices are too high because the Democrats spent too much money because they're socialists and they want to just use the public treasury like their own little piggy bank. Okay. And then crime. Stop prosecuting criminals. Decide that you're going to open up the prisons. Decide that you're not going to enforce many different laws. Make it harder for cops to do their job. You get more crime. Make it as appealing as possible for illegals to come into this country across the U.S.-Mexico border. Make sure that there's no interior enforcement of any meaningful kind going on in the country. And set up facilities to process more efficiently and comfortably the illegals who come into the country. You're going to get more illegal immigration, which is why we have 5 million people plus who have entered the country in less than 2 years. Okay, this is all really straightforward. But you notice, Clay, they don't even really engage. If you turn on MSNBC, if you read the editorial pages of the New York Times, it is overwhelmingly about, oh my gosh, fascism. Trump is Hitler and the fascism is coming. These people are crazy. There's something wrong with them. Like, I don't say this to get a rise out of people. I don't say this because it just amuses myself to engage in this hyperbole, although maybe a little bit. There's something emotionally wrong with the Democrat Party. Like, the id of the Democrat Party has gone off into crazy town. And I am hopeful of this election because the one thing they pay attention to is power. I'm hopeful that when their power is really reduced, some of them, not all, not even a majority, some Democrats may say, you know, the American people are kind of telling us something here.
Democrats have become everything that they claimed Trump would do. That's a big picture takeaway that I think will resonate for many of you out there. Democrats are the true authoritarians. So when they are saying, we need to play the Beschloss clip again because, I mean, he's an intelligent, highly educated person who obviously is skilled in terms of interpreting history from long past and is a very talented writer. I mean, all those things are true. Yet he's gone insane. And I think he's representative of this woke white community that convinced themselves that Trump was Hitler. I think you have to believe that this is not so that they are operating under a delusional mindset that Trump is Hitler. And then when Trump was all set to win re-election, COVID happened, which rescued them from having to confront the reality that the vast majority of the American public thinks that they are crazy, not that Trump is crazy, right? We're basically, you know that Spider-Man meme, Buck, where like Spider-Man is dressed the same and he's pointing at Spider-Man? It's really popular out there. My kids point to it all the time. Maybe 5% of our audience has actually seen it now that I think about it. But the meme universe is very popular. And what Democrats are alleging of Republicans is actually what they are. And they aren't sane enough to recognize that they're the crazy people. You ever
go a little further, like specifically, because obviously they say that we're fascists. They haven't actually gone full fascist yet, but they have some tendencies. So where do you think they're making accusations against the right that they themselves, I mean, I think on the political violence side, for example, the riot, they're the party of riots. We all know that. The right has one riot in years, one riot that occurs at the Capitol, and now they just switch the whole narrative to they're the party of political violence.
I think it's true in media in particular. There's almost no one in a position of power on our side in the media. They control the White House. They control the Senate. They control the House. They can say things that are 100% not true, and they get carried by MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post. We have seen time after time, it only takes a couple of months for the latest conspiracy theory to be disproven. And I think on COVID, I think on anything surrounding the economy, if you want to argue that one party is authoritarian and that they are moving in the direction of totalitarianism, it is not Republicans. I mean, look at the argument that we're making right now on Twitter that Elon Musk is having to deal with because he just tweeted that advertisers are all pulling out. All we want on Twitter is just even treatment. We want officials who call balls and strikes, Buck. And yet, that's not good enough for Democrats who have to have everything rigged in their favor. And so I want to play this the Becklosh clip again because my mind was just blown when I heard this, Buck. And I think a lot of our audience may not have seen this. To me, this is a window. You need to know your foe. This is a window into the broken brains of left-wingers in America. Listen to what he says will happen if Republicans win the House and the Senate. Listen.
We could be 6 days away from losing our rule of law and losing a situation where we have elections that we all can rely on. You know, those are the foundation stones of a democracy. So if Biden had gone on the air tonight and said, biggest thing we have to worry about is, marginal tax rate or something like that, well, it is important. But what significant presidents do, I think you'll agree, we both write history, you and I. 1860, Lincoln didn't say biggest issue is land-grant colleges, although he felt strongly. He said the country can't survive half slave or half free. 1940, Franklin Roosevelt didn't say, the biggest thing I'm worried about is foreign policy. Foreign policy was important to him, but what he did say was, never before since Jamestown and Plymouth Rock has America been in such danger. Joe Biden is saying the same thing tonight. And a historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country, and if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of, but if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Okay, so this guy is, what is so amazing about this guy is rational in other places, right? He can look at history. Buck, you tell me, because maybe I'm missing something. What is the most authoritarian thing that Donald Trump implemented in his 4 years in office that was a direct Republican prescription?
Right. Well, this is where you look at the opportunity to go full-scale authoritarian because of COVID, which Democrats took at every opportunity to do things their way. And Trump said, no, let's let the states decide. Let's let this be regional. Let's let this be something that evolves in different places across the country. By the way, I wish that he had actually said, no, we're going to defend freedom and sanity.
Yes.
So I have
in
criticisms.
Retrospect.
I have criticisms of the Trump response, but it wasn't authoritarian. It was the opposite of authoritarian under the circumstances. No, I mean, look, the left, the libs, they're the... This is why I hate calling... You notice I don't call them liberals because they're anti-liberty. They're anti-liberal. They are the enemies of individual freedom, which is the only freedom that can really exist. There's no group freedom. So they are the enemies of individual liberty, individual freedom. And we see that with speech. We see that with day-to-day life, everything that's going on. The fact that this guy, was that on MSNBC? That's where the craziest stuff is said, right? I would be so embarrassed if somebody came on any program of mine and said something that crazy.
Yeah,
but the MSNBC audience, I guarantee you 99% of them are like, this guy's a genius. He's brilliant. They think it's great. That democracy is going to end and Biden's still going to be the president. We're going to have like a narrow majority, hopefully, in the Senate. And yeah, we're going to have a really good year in the House. It's going to be the end of democracy as we know it. I mean, do they just want to have a big pity party? They just want to sit in a little circle and cry all day about how they don't get to have everything their way anymore? This is what I mean. I think to be woke and to be a lib in America today is to be deeply emotionally fragile to the point of delusions.
We keep talking about Republicans, we keep talking about Democrats, and it really is up to us at this point. We're holding up a mirror at this point as far as who we are. And, that's going to be the real tragedy if things don't go well and the Republicans really do have a wave, is you can't blame the politicians anymore. You have to blame who we are and what we've become. And unfortunately, I talk to people in New York and I'll give the arguments about democracy, and I'll give you the arguments about values, and and all they care about is their taxes, and those people make me sick. The people that have to worry about putting bread and butter on their table, that's another issue. So the issue is going to become how much are people going to care about these other issues, and are there too many people with those kitchen table issues about their bread and butter that are going to say, I don't have the luxury of doing that. We're going to find out who we are.
Oh, it's so sad, isn't it? Everything this guy says, by the way, the analysis you get on the Joe Scarborough show in the morning at MSNBC, it's great, because if you want to know what people who think they're really smart and go to the Hamptons in the summer think about politics without anyone ever actually knowing anything about politics, watch Joe Scarborough's show in the morning. It's great for that purpose. And Clay, we're going to be watching MSNBC on election night because it's going to be amazing. Because instead of admitting that Joe Biden is senile, this administration's a joke, they've made nothing but bad decisions, it's going to be just our democracy is over. It's over, Clay.
And can you imagine the fallout when Trump announces that he's going to run for president, which appears like it may well happen in a few days after the midterms, what the fallout's going to be then?
The libs need it. They need to
goodness.
toughen up. That's honestly what this is. Like there's just their emotional fragility is too much, and it's not even about politics anymore. It's grow up, libs. Grow up.